Hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about intentions, and I want to explore what intentions are and why they can be so helpful. Um, I'll say a little bit about how we can set intentions, some different types of intentions, and lastly, how we can work with them. But let's start with what intentions are and are not. First and foremost, I think an intention is knowing the direction that we're heading in life. Intentions are, in this way, not the destination we hope to arrive at, but really the direction that we're going in. With an intention, we don't necessarily know what the destination will look like, or how we'll get there, or whether we'll get there, or when we'll get there. But we can still set a course with an intention because we know the direction we want to go in. So I think intentions are different from goals because they're not quite so specific, they're more general. For example, saying something like, my goal is to meditate every day is much more precise and specific than saying something like, I intend to meditate every day. So intentions are broader and goals are more specific. And for this reason, I think it can be helpful to be clear on our intentions before we set goals for ourselves. In addition, because goals are detailed and specific, there can be, though not always, there can be a kind of an attachment or a clinging to goals that isn't present with intentions, because a goal is something I want to achieve or attain. It's something that I want or desire in the future. It's a destination that I want to arrive at in some future time. But intentions are much more about the present moment and how we think and act right now. Unlike goals, intentions are really about what we do in the here and now, rather than a projection into the future. Intentions are what give us the get up and go, if you like, and the kind of stick-to-itness that we need when our energy and our enthusiasm falter. And even if we do our very best to honour our intentions and we fail, at least we've tried. But if we don't attain our goals, there's often a feeling of failure or disappointment. That said, there's nothing wrong with having goals and working towards them. I think both goals and intentions require a sustained attention and effort. You have to work at them, even when you don't feel like it. You make an effort because you want to honour your intentions. And for this reason, intentions that are made up on the spur of the moment can be difficult to sustain. Intentions that kind of emerge over time are much more likely to stick. Quaker educator Parker Palmer said this about intentions. Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. I think this is a very helpful way to think. So, for example, I'm vegetarian. I have an intention, in other words, not to eat meat. But this intention didn't just come to me all of a sudden one day. It wasn't something that I decided to do and said, it's my intention not to eat meat. Rather, it's something that emerged over a period of many years during which it gradually became clear to me that in most cases eating meat was incompatible with my desire not to harm other living beings. And once I realized this, it's like a veil was lifted and something was revealed. It wasn't as if I imposed anything on myself, or as if I forced myself not to eat meat. My intention to be vegetarian just came very naturally, all on its own. So now I'd like to talk about 3 different levels or types of intention that are common in Buddhism. And I find this distinction helpful because it enables me to work with my intentions more precisely. And the first type or level of intention is called Sama-Sankapa in the Pali language of the early Buddhists. And this is the kind of largest or most encompassing form of intention. It's about our heart's deepest aspirations. It's about who we want to be as human beings. It's about our values and ideals. And this is the type of intention that Palma was talking about in the quote that I just read. And at this most fundamental level of intention, the Buddha had 3 suggestions or 3 intentions. The first is about trying not to harm anyone or anything. So a commitment, an intention, if you like, not to cause harm. Sometimes it's more specific and focuses on not killing, but I prefer the broader interpretation of non-harming. The second kind of basic fundamental intention that the Buddha expressed was one about offering goodwill and kindness and respect to everyone. In other words, we try to cultivate loving kindness for all beings without discrimination or without attachment. You can think about this intention as having universal love and compassion for everyone. And then the third one is about living simply, without a lot of desires or attachments. Sometimes this is called renunciation. But renunciation isn't so much about giving up things, rather it's about changing our relationship with them. It's about taking pleasure in the simple things in life, and it's about humility and gratitude. So these 3 kind of fundamental or basic intentions, not causing harm, being kind to everyone, and simple living, they all work together. They complement each other and kind of feed each other. So that if we live simply and are generous, then we'll be kind to others and we won't do any harm. Now, in addition to this basic or fundamental level of intention, Sama-Sankapa, the Buddha identified 2 other levels. One of them is Aditana. And this is an intermediate level of intention, if you like, and it's about having the resolve and the determination and the persistence that we need to work with our basic intentions, such as the 3 that I just mentioned. And according to the Bodhisattva Sameda, Aditana is necessary for awakening, this type of resolve or persistence. And this is how he described it. He said, as a mountain, a rock, stable and firmly based, does not tremble in rough winds, but remains precisely its own place. So you too must be constantly stable in resolute determination. Going on to the perfection of resolute determination, you will attain self-awakening. So this second level of intention, Aditana, is about going against what's easy and holding on to our basic intentions, whatever happens. It's It's like a New Year's resolution or setting an intention for how you're going to act today, or a commitment to meditate that you are determined to sustain over time. So it's really about resolve. In addition to these first two levels of Sama-Sankapa and Aditana, the Buddha's third level of intention is called Cetana. And this is the finest level of intention. And it's the type of intention that really inspires us to speak or act or do something in particular ways in the moment. So it's the urge to say something or do something. And it's what propels us forward from moment to moment. So, for example, if I see somebody struggling to open a door, then Cetana is the intention to open it for them. You can also think of this as the mental factor that moves or shifts the mind in a particular direction. In other words, Cetana is what causes us to do or say something. Bhikkhu Bodhi says that Cetana is the volitional aspect of cognition. It's about what makes us do something based on our intention. So all three levels of intention, Sama-Sankapa, Aditana, and Cetana, can be conscious or they can be unconscious. And part of the work of our awareness is to make them all more conscious in our lives. So now I'd like to say a few words about how to do this, how to make our intentions more conscious in our lives, especially these most basic intentions, the Sama-Sankapa level. And the first thing I think is to remember them. If you have a deep, basic intention, if you have an ideal or a value you want to live up to, the first step is to remember it. Because if you don't remember it, you won't be able to work with it. So remembering our basic intentions is key. And of course, this is where mindfulness comes in, because the more mindful we are, the more mindful it is that we'll remember and that we'll live by our basic intentions. But of course, it's easy to forget, especially when we're busy or stressed out or caught up in some form of emotional reactivity. So I find it personally very helpful to remind myself of my basic intentions every morning before I meditate. And so I say them, usually out loud if I'm on my own. And my own most basic intentions, this Sama-Sankapa level, are an expansion of the three that I just mentioned a few minutes ago: non-harming, offering goodwill, and living simply. And my basic intentions are the 5 basic precepts of Buddhism for lay people. And those are basically to abstain from doing harm, to abstain from stealing or taking what is not freely offered, to abstain from sexual misconduct, to abstain from lying, and to abstain from intoxication of all forms. And Buddhist monks, nuns, and lay people have recited these 5 precepts every day for thousands of years, and so I think I'm in pretty good company. So that's the first step in working with intentions, particularly these basic level intentions, remembering them, especially when we're busy or stressed out or being emotionally reactive. A second step can be at the end of every day. You can review what happened, what you did and said during the day, and ask yourself whether your thoughts, words, and actions were consistent with your basic intentions or not. And what's important here is to inquire very gently and to be very kind with yourself. This isn't an interrogation or an examination. Rather, it's a kind of loving inquiry into whether you honoured your basic intentions or not, and then listening to what your heart tells you. If you feel that your thoughts, words, or actions are consistent with your basic intentions, then give yourself a pat on the back and offer yourself some appreciation and gratitude, and sense into any feelings that arise in your body. You might feel warmth or love or caring or tenderness, and just really soak in how it feels to live according to your intentions. On the other hand, if you feel that your thoughts, words, and actions were not consistent with your basic intentions, you can still give yourself a pat on the back for recognizing the inconsistency, and offer yourself appreciation and gratitude for your self-awareness at seeing this. Of course, there is no judgment, blame, or criticism here, just a recognition of what your heart is telling you. So these are the first two steps of using intentions. Well, they can be remembering your basic intentions and then just checking in at the end of the day to see if you've honoured them or not. The third step can be that if you feel that your thoughts, words, and actions were not consistent with your basic intentions, you can ask yourself why. Why was there an inconsistency between your deepest values, your deepest ideals, and what you thought, did, or said? And again, asking yourself this question very gently, without any self-judgment or blame or harshness. Simply asking, why was there this inconsistency? Being curious about it. Perhaps you forgot your intention in the heat of the moment. Perhaps you were emotionally triggered, or some kind of strong reactivity kicked in. Perhaps there was a conflict between your intentions. And when we understand why our thoughts, words, and actions are inconsistent with our deepest intentions, we can change. And we can do whatever's appropriate. It might be recommitting or reaffirming your original intention, or it might be modifying it in some way. We can always modify and change our intentions. Whatever you do to align your intentions with your thoughts, words, and actions, do it with self-compassion and kindness. And this is the last step, offering yourself kindness and compassion, recognizing that no one can live up to their fundamental ideals all the time, that we all fail sometimes, and this doesn't mean we're bad people. It simply means we're human and just like everyone else. You might offer yourself forgiveness, or say to yourself something like, I love and accept myself just as I am. Offering yourself anything that opens your heart to yourself and prevents it from constricting around judgment. So now that we've looked at what intentions are and how to set them, and some different levels of intentions and how to work with them, I invite you to set some intentions for yourself. To explore your intentions, particularly your deep intentions, you might imagine that your mind is like a still, deep pool of water, and then simply drop in the question, do I have intentions for my mindfulness practice? And wait and see what happens. See if anything surfaces in your mind. Or you might just ask more generally, do I have any intentions for my life? And then just asking the questions and waiting and seeing what happens. Seeing if anything surfaces in your mind. Maybe it will and maybe it won't. Don't force anything though, or have any expectations about what your intentions should be. Simply see if anything arises in your mind and give it time. Be patient. And then if you find yourself with an intention or more than one, you might like to write it down as a way to remind yourself. And I'll end with these words from Gandhi. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So intentions can really shape the way we live our lives. Thank you for your kind attention, and I hope to see you next time.